Hi, it's Michelle with the Medicine Couch. Normally on this channel, I am interviewing PAs and NPs, finding out the cool and different things that they are doing in the world of medicine. But every once in a while, we take little detours and talk about professional topics. And today is one of those detours. We're going to talk about my very favorite topic, paid time off, otherwise known as PTO. How does your PTO compare? Are you getting as much PTO as other people? I know most of us would say we don't get enough, but it's important to know where your PTO falls to see if you need to renegotiate that part of your contract, or if you are comparing two different contracts, that you know exactly what you're comparing when you're looking at PTO. We're also going to talk about some of the other factors surrounding PTO and why some people get it and other people don't get any at all. The term PTO can actually be confusing. Some places, when they refer to PTO, talk about a whole bucket of time that you get off through the year. So it can include national holidays, it can include sick time, it can include your CME and your regular vacation time. So they just call it all PTO. But other places, when they're referring to PTO, are really just kind of talking about your vacation. They have CME, national holidays, and sick days listed separately in the contract. So that is the first important thing to know about your PTO, is what is included under that term PTO. Now, it's also important to know how PTO is handled, because every place does that differently as well. Some places give you the PTO for the year, and whatever you don't use at the end of the year can be rolled over for the next year or two. Some places just cash out your PTO at the end of the year and kind of give you a lump sum for any unused time. And then there's the dreaded other places that have kind of a use it or lose it policy. So if you don't take all of your paid time off, then it just kind of disappears. You don't get to use it again in the future anywhere, and you don't get paid for it at all. So while PTO is a normal benefit that is offered in most contracts, there are some places that PAs and NPs are going to find that they are not offered any or very little PTO. So let's talk about those circumstances. One would be if you're applying for a hospitalist position. Now, hospitalists traditionally work like a 7-day on, 7-day off kind of schedule. So they're getting big chunks of time off every other week. So somewhere along the line, I guess it was decided that people who work as hospitalists in that type of schedule do not need any additional paid time off. But this really doesn't make sense to me, because if you do the math, if you multiply, especially somebody who works a traditional 12-hour shift as a hospitalist, working 7 days a week, multiplying that times 26 weeks of the year, you actually come out to more hours than somebody who is working traditional Monday through Friday, 52 weeks a year. So really, hospitalists are working more hours, but yet they don't get any paid time off or very little paid time off. It doesn't make sense to me, and I don't think it's fair. Just because they have these periods of time off where, yes, they can go on vacation, they are actually not getting any more time. They're getting less time. So I really feel like they should be offered paid time off. But it's not up to me. The other situation that you're going to see little to no paid time off is going to be for people working in emergency rooms. So when they staff emergency rooms, often you're working 12-hour shifts, and you are required to work like 12 to 14 shifts a month, and those shifts get staggered over different times. So the theory there is that you should be able to arrange your schedule to allow for a big chunk of time off if you want to go on vacation. But for those people who may want to take like a 2-week vacation, that means that you are going to have to work a ton of back-to-back 12-hour shifts before and after your vacation just to be able to get a vacation. And that's not relaxing for anybody. It's not fair, and it doesn't lead to good patient care when providers are so tired. So again, not in agreement there. I think they should get paid time off just like any other provider. Now, the final two instances are when you're working as a 1099 contract, like I do, often working locums, or if you are working on an RVU-only compensation type setup, then you're not going to be given paid time off. You'll, of course, be able to take time off, but it's not going to be paid. And the RVU compensation is something that people need to think about when you are contemplating a contract that has RVU compensation. Even if you're getting, a base salary plus RVUs, any time off that you take is going to take away from your ability to meet your RVU totals. to get those bonuses and to get that pay. So that's something you really have to think about and factor in when you're deciding between contracts. So what is the standard PTO that's being offered out there? Well, today I'm going to talk about numbers that come from the AAPA salary report. And also I've looked at some other sites just to see if there's any other different numbers floating around out there, and they're all pretty much the same. Now, if you've never checked out the AAPA salary report, I would highly recommend it. It's a benefit. You get it for free if you are an AAPA member, so that's another reason to become a member. But if you're not a member, you still can purchase the report. And the report has salary, but it also talks about things other than salary. And one of the things it talks about is the PTO. They'll have a general PTO, and then they have different categories like straight vacation, straight sick days, straight holidays, straight CME. So what they've done, they say at the bottom that they have taken respondents, and if the people broke it out separately into each category, then they put them in individual categories. But if people reported it all as one lump sum, then that went into the general PTO bucket. So we're going to be looking at just general PTO, and they do have it broken out in the different percentiles. We're going to look at just the 50 percentile, so that's average. So when we talk about average, we're talking about being in the 50th percentile. And then they talk about the 90th percentile and up, so the higher end range. So we're going to compare those two. So first of all, let's talk about what states have the highest average PTO and which have the highest overall PTO. Coming in at number 1 for highest average PTO is South Dakota. The PAs in the 50th percentile there got on average 25.1 days off per year. State that has the absolute highest number of PTO days in the 90th percentile is Maine, with those PAs getting 35.8 days of PTO. But let's look at overall in the nation. What are the totals once you average out all the different states? Those in the 50th percentile all across the nation reported 19.8 days of PTO. So let's say basically 20 days of PTO. And those that are in the 90th percentile plus came out to averaging 30 days off per year. Now, like I said, they have things broken out different ways, and they have the PTO also broken out by years of experience. So I was curious to look at that and see what the difference is. So the people who are in the 0 to 1 years category, so basically the people who are just starting or who have been working their first year, report on average in the 50th percentile that they are getting 15 days of PTO off per year, while those who are still in their first year but in the 90th percentile reported 27 days off per year. Now, if you look at the 2 to 4 years, it's not much different, with the 50th percentile having 16 days off per year and the 90th percentile still at 27 days off per year. Once you move to 5 years on up, they break it up into categories all the way up to 20 plus years. But when you look at those numbers, it really doesn't seem to be a whole lot of fluctuation. Generally, once you hit that 5-year mark of experience on up, you're going to be around 20 to 21 days off per year in the 50th percentile. And that only moves up to about 30 to 32 days off per year in the 90th percentile. So kind of surprising, while your salary continues to climb, the more experience you get, it looks like the PTO kind of plateaus out. Of course, these are just numbers that have been reported by PAs around the country, and there is so much variability in contracts. Like I mentioned before when I did the VA video, the VA offers some amazing time off. They offer 26 days of paid time off per year for PAs and NPs, and that doesn't include sick time, holidays, which they get like 11 national holidays, and other paid time off. So of course, these numbers are very variable, and I'm just trying to give you an idea of what the national averages are, so you can kind of compare what your PTO is and contracts you're looking at. Now, in addition to the number of days that are being offered, there are some other things that you have to consider and think about when you are looking at PTO. One of those would be the availability of you being able to schedule your PTO. Sometimes, especially if you work in a specialty where you work very closely with a surgeon or other physician, it may be required for you to take your PTO at the same time that the surgeon does, whether that's convenient for you or not. You also need to ask if there are any other scheduling considerations that comes to you taking your paid time off, like do you have to coordinate with other providers in the practice? The other thing to ask, and it's something that I ask on every job interview, is how easy is it to take the PTO? Do they actually encourage you to take PTO so you can kind of renew and refresh? Or is it a real hassle, and do they try to kind of keep you from taking your PTO? It's one thing to have a number listed in your contract of how many days you get off, but then to come find out you can't actually take the PTO, or if you do, they make you feel really bad about it. That kind of takes away a lot of the greatness of that benefit. Of course, you also need to find out what happens if you need some time off after you've already used all of your allotted days, and find out what happens to your days if you don't get to use them, whether you can cash them out, roll them over, or whether they just disappear. So when you add up all your time off, so including CME, sick days, and vacation time, you should be getting around 20 to 30 days off per year. And if you're not, then just know that you are not even hitting the 50th percentile nationally. Paid time off is not only good for you, but it's also good for your employer, and it's good for patients. It helps us to step away, to get some of that stress off of our shoulders, to just kind of relax and recharge a bit, and come back hopefully refreshed and renewed. So don't be shy, negotiate for that paid time off, or renegotiate if you already have a contract that doesn't give you quite enough time off. Next week, I'll be back interviewing PAs and NPs doing great things in medicine. If you want to see some of the past videos I've done, you can check them out here, or go to my main channel where I've got playlists broken out into different medical specialties, PAs and NPs doing cool and unusual jobs, PAs and NPs in non-clinical roles, and then other professional topics. Thanks again for joining me. Take care, stay sane, and I'll see you next time on the Medicine Couch. Bye.